heard a lot, not being negative in a way, but you're not going to have an income for a little bit.
Yeah.
All this crazy stuff. And yeah, they're right.
Kaycie, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I kind of want you to start sort of like at the beginning of your story. So that was October 2023? Not that long ago?
Yeah, I know. I just started my digital marketing agency back in October. I got hit with the layoffs in New York City. I was working, and I was a media buyer for 2 years.
What does that mean, media buying? I've heard it, but I never understood what it meant.
It's honestly me either. When I was in college, no one ever talked about media buying. I kind of just got thrown into it randomly. But it's basically just pay you. So at first I was at an agency. So I had a bunch of clients, and I was doing negotiating, I would say, for advertisement spots on TV. So first I was doing commercials. And so what you would do is you get like a monthly budget or a quarterly budget, and you try and balance it out across different channels, like digital. You would do like different social medias or Google, and you would just try and get as many conversions as in sales as possible.
So it's
kind
of
cool.
Like a hustle.
It's a bunch of numbers. Yeah, honestly, it's a lot of back and forth. And yeah, so I kind of just fell in love with the numbers of it because it's negotiating, but especially on digital, you don't see the negotiating. It's just the highest bidder. So that's why I always say it's like a silent auction to all my clients. Like, you kind of just see what sticks in the beginning. But
interesting. They kind of feel like the Wild Wild West. Like, there's really not a lot of rules around it. Like, everyone's just paying as much as they can, and you're like facilitating that experience.
Yeah. And so at first I was like, I had no idea when I first started. And it's a bunch of like Excel spreadsheets, and I came from a public relations background, so it's more writing. So I had no idea what I was doing. And it
would have been.
It's way more sales side than I thought, because I'm used to like doing graphics and websites, and then I got to see money and a bunch of money, you know, like
it's not small amounts.
No. And that's why I tell my clients now too, I get nervous for them because I'm like, we can do small amounts and that's totally fine, but the more you pay, sadly, with anything, the more data you'll get to see your demographic. So in the beginning, at least for me when I was starting, I put more money than I am now to find like my niche and stuff. But granted, obviously at the agency, they already knew everything.
Yeah. So did you have fun at your agency job? Like, were you really excited about it?
I loved it. It was so cool. And I think that's why I wanted to start my own agency, because after I left the agency and went to a different company, it was in-house. So it was just for them, and it was the beginning for them. So I don't think they knew exactly, you know, and I did, but from an agency side. So I was working with a bunch of different clients at once. And so now getting back into that, I think it's honestly healthier for the brain. You can, like, you know, classes, you go from one to another and you have to shut one off, kind of. So it was really, I still miss the agency. I still talk to them to this day. Like, they're just such fun. They're all like in the same boat, like puzzles, solving the puzzles and seeing what sticks, but it's great.
That's so cool. So when you got laid off, you were like, now is the time? Had you always wanted to start your own agency?
I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
My friends make fun of me because I start a lot of hobbies. And then I'm like, no, I don't like this anymore. But once I got laid off, it was actually a weird moment because I was in the city and I, you know, dealt with that whole shebang of getting laid off. And I was on my way home and I was just like, what am I doing? I'm not a corporate America person. Especially in media buying, because it's hard because it's not your money, you know. So it's like I can't exactly tell you what to do, or like give my expertise, I would say, because at the end of the day, it's not yours. So people
Yeah.
are nervous, and that's fine. But so I was just realizing that I should just take my own expertise and kind of help small businesses because
Yeah.
at the companies, it's major companies that have a lot of money to work with and throw around. And these small businesses are struggling on all platforms because they don't know what to do. They don't have
Yeah.
the income that others do. So yeah, and my dad's an entrepreneur as well. So I kind of had that background of just making your own schedule
Yeah.
and enjoying.
I'm so curious to know, what were these hobbies that you started? Like, because I feel like all entrepreneurs kind of get this way where, like, until they find their thing, they try a bunch of different things, which I think is great because, like, how else are you supposed to figure out what you want to actually build?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It starts from when I was young. It was guitar for a little. That was hard. I have small hands. I can't reach the strings. That's not for me. I randomly tried skateboarding. No, I don't know what I was thinking. In high school, I was like all over the place. And then during COVID, I tried to start a podcast, and I I literally built a whole studio.
Oh my God.
Got all my friends to help me. I had a logo. I went to the city and did promo videos, like all this crazy stuff. And then I got down to sit and I was like, no, I can't. Like, no. I just get what holds me back is my nerves, and especially online. I'm very nervous from my upbringing because of just judging. So I kind of just hone back and stop. But
Yeah.
now I'm kind of at the point where it's like, I know it's a talent that I have. So I'm like, I might as
Yeah.
well just see. But thank God I did, because it's actually working.
No, I was the same way. Like, I tried to, like, oh my God, I can't tell you how many times I like tried to be a blogger and an influencer, like, so many times. And then after my last job, I left because my project was over, and I had like about a year between like my current 9 to 5 and my last 9 to 5. And I was really into pottery as like a hobby. And I was like, is this my thing now? Am I like a potter? Like, I don't know why, but I feel like every entrepreneur like tries a hobby and they're like, this is now my identity, like I am now going to put all my eggs in this basket. Like, we don't actually know how to have hobbies. We are always trying to turn them into like full-time gigs or like money-making ventures in some way, shape, or form, like some sort of side hustle. Like, we literally can't just like have a hobby. Like, we can't
No,
just have fun.
no. I think our minds just can't shut off. Like, I'm
No.
always doing something, and if I'm not, I'm literally playing games on my phone because I'm like, I can't, like,
Yeah.
I can't stop.
No, like,
Um,
I have a schedule. I have things that need to be done, and if anything, like, and then I have my scheduled like rest time
yep,
that occurs afterwards.
the
There's
hourly
no,
like set day, like
yeah,
to a
yeah,
T,
of course. How else are we supposed to survive?
right? It's crazy to me, but I don't know. My friend's mom, actually, when I first started, she was like, again, she's like, what are you starting now? And I was like, this was gonna work. I was like, I swear.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like, I stop telling my parents every time I start something new because I'm like, just like, don't worry about it. If it works out, then we can talk about it later. But I guess
Exactly.
this one stuck for you, which is cool. I'm curious to know like what the difference of the process was. Like, how did it feel? How was it, you know, going through the starting process, cuz as opposed to all the other times?
I think my from the other times, it was more of the confidence and the excitement behind it, because
Mhm.
it's not technically starting from scratch, I would
Yeah.
say. The business side, yeah, that was
Yeah.
it's still hell to this day. Like, it's hard. It's like, I can go on and on about the times you just want to like sit and cry and not do it. And like, again, entrepreneurs and their energy levels, if I like take a day off, it's so hard for me to like get
It's
back
so
in.
hard.
I
Yeah.
can't do it. So, and then you get into that toxic like, oh God, I'm not taking a break kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this one's just different because I enjoy not having a break.
Yeah.
And the other times it was like, why am I doing this? I just kind of hit a wall. And this one, so far, there's no wall. So I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And I also was lucky because I was, you just have like the family connections or friends connections where I was helping my dad with his and his business, and then my cousin with his restaurant franchise. And like, so it kind of built from there where I was already in a routine right off the bat.
Yeah.
But yeah, still to this day, I love it, but I also hate it at the same time.
It's almost like you were already doing it, you just hadn't like made the LLC, you just hadn't made it like your official gig.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
It was, yeah. And so then when I did it, it was like real, and you know, you want to stop for a second and breathe, but then I also don't, because I think another entrepreneur, it's like you want to prove everybody wrong, kind of make it work.
Totally.
And so with this one, it's like I got to do it, you know?
Yeah. There's something about that. And I think it's a common personality trait amongst entrepreneurs where like I think we've been told that it's not going to work, or like we've shown ourselves that it's not going to work through other previous experiences where, like you said, so eloquently, I think like you hit a wall in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like a physical issue in getting the business off the ground, or like you lose the excitement that you had about it, or like it just sort of like naturally dies off in a way. And I think because of that, like we're scared
Yeah.
that like it's not going to work out. And so between like proving ourselves wrong and proving everybody else wrong, it's this like intense drive to be like, no, 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 like I'm definitely right. And there's also such like an element where we want it to work so bad because this lifestyle provides freedom in a way that you don't experience like literally anywhere else. I was talking to somebody else a while ago, and she was saying how like for entrepreneurs it's impossible to conceive how you could just define yourself from like one piece of paper and to put your worth in someone else's hands, like in terms of a promotion or like a resume. Like to fathom that is so incredibly difficult, because it's like I know my worth and I want to be able to put that into my own hands and like work hard and build something on my own, because like I just can't imagine letting somebody else be dictating what I can and can't do, or what I am or am not capable of, or when.
Yeah. I think I learned that at my second job. There was, you know, it was new, and everything was moving, but it kind of got, and not like cocky in a way, but confidence levels of just also I think being younger with the digital age is a different thought process, and I kind of like bouncing off like different ages, I would say, because of how different like things can be. And I learned that like the bosses kind of hold you back in a way. So
I
it's
want you to like go deeper into this, because I think this is really interesting. Like, first of all, I guess I never thought about that, but I guess that's a good point. Like how people talk to somebody your age, especially about like digital marketing, is probably so different. Like, do they come to you looking for advice, or like do they seek out your expertise because like you're younger and therefore more knowledgeable about the space?
I think it's a little bit of both. There definitely was a lot of wanting our ideas, and I could get very technical, but like let's say, I'm gonna try to explain this. So in like in a digital campaign, right? Your click is tracked when you click the ad. So I can see the different websites that like you were on.
Yeah.
So I was telling them, I was like, this person, like because I play a lot of phone games. So I was like, this person by accident clicked it on like solitaire. Let's like exclude solitaire because you're wasting money on a click. You know what I mean? And they weren't they were thinking more of like age and location, and that like, and then that one they kind of opened their eyes to. But then I think once you get higher up in corporate America, like my higher up bosses, they didn't really like it, I would say. I think that was my issue with corporate America. I think people are stubborn, and I think it's very cutthroat, obviously. And so there's people that value the opinion to a point, because obviously different levels of manager. But I think there's also a point where people don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
And learn. I think that as an entrepreneur is frustrating, because I think it's every day is a learning thing. Like, there's,
of course,
especially online, it's all different. I mean, with AI, we can go on all day. But so it was like vice versa, I would say. But I think it depends people's personality, you know? Like, you talk to someone who like loves corporate America and thrives in it. Yeah. Then they don't really care about my opinion, because they like love it and they somehow made it to the top. So like, they must be doing something right, and respect to you. But I'm not that person. So I was like, once I got laid off, I was like, I am out. And I have so much to learn too, because I'm so young, but I would rather do it in a way where it's on my own and I'm able to expand as fast or as slow as I want.
Yeah.
So
it's a personality thing.
Yeah.
It's like, entrepreneurs are very much growth mindset oriented, and I'm not saying that people who love corporate aren't. I just think that they have a different perspective, and like they have different goals and ambitions, and like I think the only way that I've really been able to articulate it is that I can't spend the rest of my life working towards someone else's goals and visions.
Yes.
Like, I can't spend the rest of my life working every day for 40 hours a week to implement someone else's vision. Like, I have my own goals and my own visions that I want to create, and like I can't every day, like, you know, I work a 9 to 5 right now because I'm co-founder of a tech platform that we're building, and then also like doing this podcast on the side. So like, your girl needs some sort of an income. And I did freelance life, and it was like so hard.
It's so hard.
It was, honestly, I thought that was like entrepreneurial life, and then I realized like how much it sucks to be freelance, because you're always looking for your next paycheck, and that could be like $100 or it could be like $1,000, and it's just like very stressful. So I was like, okay, I'll go back and work corporate. But I was I actually didn't think that I was going to go back and work. I mean, I'm not in corporate, I'm in tech, so it's a little bit different. But like, I didn't think that I would go back to a traditional 9 to 5, especially because I felt like I'd come from a traditional 9 to 5 and then did freelance. And I was like, oh, I'm going to start my podcast, like make it big, and I'm never going to have to work again. And then, you know, push comes to shove, and I'm like, this is not the lifestyle that I wanted. It's like entrepreneurial adjacent, but without the sort of like relative financial security of having a real business. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just find something a little bit more steady. So I was like, oh, I'll go, literally, this was my thought process. I was like, I'll just go work like at the front desk of a gym so that I can get my gym membership for free, and I don't have to pay for that. But like, it's a steady income, and I can still like work on my own stuff on the side, right? And then this job magically fell into my lap, and it was great because it is those things, but at like a higher level. So it's great, but truly, like, long story short, I wanted to pick a job in the corporate like esque sphere. I'm in tech, so it's not corporate, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And that I wanted to have something that was like low mental energy, so that I could have enough to go and like work on my own stuff on the side. So like, if somebody's listening, you know, and they're like, I have a dream, but I am not ready to quit my full-time job, like, or if are looking for a full-time job or whatever, like, all I'm trying to say is like, there is a way to, I think, for us, like personality wise, to work in this environment until we can get like our shit together. Because I think a lot of people have, like, you in particular were confronted with it, where you were like, you got laid off, and so you were like, okay, I have the choice right now, like, do I go back into it or do I just start it? For you had already started, so it like made sense. But if somebody else is like, I'm not ready yet, you know, like, to pick a job that's stable is an option, but at least make sure that you're going into it and be like, is this going to require a lot of mental energy? Because I think people make the mistake of getting a full-time job that's like taking so much mental exertion that they don't have time to then like put it back into the thing that really matters to them, which is their business.
Yes, that was my issue too, because
Mm.
I also think it goes back to the, I guess, yeah, just mental and personality, because I know when I started it, everybody thought it was a hobby, and then I was going to find another job and just go back and do on the side. And so I heard a lot from a bunch of people, not being negative in a way, but it was more of, why don't you do it on the side? Why don't you have a plan B?
Yeah.
You're not going to have an income for a little bit, like
Yeah.
all this crazy stuff. And yeah, they're right. But it got to my head to a point, because I think I struggled a lot in the beginning with the fear. If
Of course.
I want to prove them wrong, but do I go back and listen to them and do it on the side? Or do I just hustle and see what I can do? So I think that's still the track I'm on, where I think it's just it's all a mental game. Everything is, in my opinion. But it's what is best for you, and right now that's me and that's you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
yes,
everybody is so different, and I think a lot of people try and be similar, especially with these small businesses and everybody trying to be influencers and everything, and power to you that do it. But it comes to a point, and I always say I like respect hitting rock bottom in that way, where you have no choice but to think about what it is, and you can always change, but finding your groove changes it.
And 100%.
Right? Like, and I always say too, with corporate America, I loved it, but my passion wasn't working for someone else's dreams and goals. So I work better. I think I brought my talents more to the forefront doing this. And granted, you know, obviously it's not the salary that I was doing, but I'm going to get there. And it's kind of just putting your head down and taking out all the noise and realizing that your passion can grow bigger if, you know, but hard work works. So
yeah, of course. I think
people just throw and see, like, they think they're going to be an influencer, but
always. And entrepreneurialism, like at the core, is just like the overwhelming belief in yourself to rise above the noise and to just power through and like figure it out. But I also think something important that you said is that everyone is so different, and like everyone's journey to or through entrepreneurialism looks totally different. I think you need to be open-minded to the pivots that takes, because it might not be linear. It might not be like you get laid off and then you start your next business and then that's the one that works out. I think like you need to try everything, and I think you need to just, I think it's a lot like a lesson in trusting your gut. I think like you just have to be open to the journey and let it unfold in a very natural and organic way. Like trying to force something to work is never going to work. And especially with this game, it's so personal and it's so intense and it's such a mental experiment throughout every process, like through problem solving, like getting the actual business off the ground, like finding clients, like all of that is its own mental game. And like that all adds up to this bigger exercise of like personal growth. And through that, if you do not have a good like ear to your intuition, it's going to be so hard, because you're not going to be able to ride the waves or like see when the path needs to divert and change. And like if you can't like volley with that, it's going to be so much harder. And I think it's going to be also like the stakes are going to be much higher, because then you'll make decisions that try to like force it, and then you'll probably lose like a bunch of money as a result.
Yeah, that was me in the beginning. I was being very resistant, I think, and kind of closed-minded to it all, because I just figured I would be able to, obviously not right away, but I thought I would be doing better right when it started than I was.
What do you mean?
I think I just kind of, because I do digital marketing, I thought I could just
you're like, I got this.
Yeah. And I started realizing, I was like, this is not what I imagined. This is way harder. And I was kind of resisting different paths in a way. So it was more of, no, I'm doing it. It's gonna work. I just need to like give it time.
Yeah.
And then I
Can you
started
give can
realizing
you give
like,
like an example? Because I think this is such, I bet a lot of people have this experience in different ways, but I think like if you can give an example, I think people will be able to like apply it to their own situations because I imagine that like a lot of people go through this.
yeah. So with digital marketing, I never went in person. So I always just assumed I could do paid ads, I can do
Mhm.
LinkedIn, I can do Facebook groups, and I'll slowly start building clientele and reviews. But that didn't work. I mean, it did for like a couple people or a couple clients, but it wasn't what I genuinely needed as revenue.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I was still like, no, I can do it. Like, I do digital marketing, so I'm going
Yeah.
to make digital marketing work. And then I realized I need to stop and think of different ways. And so I started going in person to networking events. And that
Mm.
was a game changer because it's, you know, some people that need marketing, as for my sake, don't look online. Maybe they do bring
Mm.
their small business to a networking event, and talking to them and building that trust, I think, in person was way different than what I imagined using my expertise.
That's interesting.
So, yeah. And then I forget the podcast, but I was listening to one podcast and it was always saying, um, oh, I wish I could give credit to this person. I forget who it was. They said there was like a trust bank.
Mm.
So they like do the 100 trust bank, and that's when it turns into a client or a sale. So
Yeah.
for my sake, it was like, if emailing back and forth isn't going to work for them, then I need to go push or do a video call or go into person and sit there and go up to random people with my business cards and do it kind of what people would say is old school. But in
Yeah.
a way, like, I think that's what a lot of people, especially influencers and stuff, are missing, is that there's different components to make it work and they're not riding the wave.
Interesting.
So yeah, that was that. And that's why I started looking, I was like, maybe I should talk to more people about what they do, even if it's not digital
Yeah.
marketing, just to see people's paths are so intriguing because you can learn from it and put it onto your path. So
Totally. I think
yeah.
it's so interesting because, like, for you, I think on paper it makes perfect sense. You're like, oh, I used to work for an agency. Like, this is my background. It's a surefire win if I do this on my own because you're like, I know this industry and I know how it works and I've done it. But I think like the clients that you were working with on a regular basis are so different from the ones that you're now looking to work with. And it was like they have such a different approach to life and to thinking, and like their way of doing things is also fundamentally different, that it took you realizing that instead of like forcing it and then going out and like meeting with them and talking to them face to face for you to be like, oh shit, there's other ways to make this work. And I think like that's such a key moment, is that to recognize there are other ways to success. I was just talking about this the other day because the way that I was like posting on social media, I was trying to do the thing where you post on all the channels and like each one has to be slightly different. And your girl works a 9 to 5. Like, I frankly
Yeah.
just did not have time to be making and doing like all the editing, all the social posts like by myself. And I realized like and it wasn't fun. I wasn't having a good time. And I was like, the reason that I kept doing it was I was like, oh, that's the cost of doing business. Like, I have to do this in order to succeed because that's what other people tell you. That's how you're going to succeed. And it wasn't until I realized, I was like, wait, this is my brand. I can do whatever I want. I don't have to be doing things the way that everyone else is just because that worked for them or like they were successful in doing that. I have to just do what works for me. And that's like basically now I repurpose content across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, but I post it all like on my personal channels as opposed to like having a separate account for everything
Yeah.
and trying to generate interest that way. And that freaking worked. And I was like, damn, that's so much better because then it works for you as a person, it works with your schedule, and it also like is driving traffic and like what you're getting out of it, what you're trying to. And it was such like an obvious like aha moment that should have been obvious, but it's like what works for you might not work for other people, and like that's great because it just doesn't have to. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs
Exactly.
need to hear that, in fact, they don't have to do things the same way that everyone else does.
Yeah. That's why I also, it, two things. Well, one, I get nervous with the people trying to sell courses for, like, let's say marketing yourself or
Yeah.
marketing your brand, because you don't know how much money they put into it, and they say free, but that you're paying for the course, and it's like a bunch of
Right.
other different things. So it's just there's so much to digital and brands and marketing that you can learn from them, yes, but you don't know if it's going to work. And so, like, that was always nerve-wracking to me. And also, like, when I switched to realizing I needed to communicate in person, it kind of taught me also that I shouldn't just take my expertise and help them. I should also be teaching them and guiding them through it.
Yeah.
So it helped so much, where it taught me to be a small business owner is to not just do it. It's more of, they want to know the why, they want to know the when. So I'm very articulate with, like, shared folders and, like, day-to-day, like, back to entrepreneur things, like hourly tasks. So, like, they know exactly, like, transparent what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, and I honestly don't think I would have learned that if I didn't really, like, talk to people and them being confused, because when I came from my 9 to 5 job, I was, like, talking in language that they didn't get. And
Right.
it just went right over my head. So I wasn't really listening, which is not good. I wasn't fully, I guess, by accident being transparent with them. So I'm just learning other people, and not even your clients, just other people's paths and other people's ways can alter what you do. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's helped me so much, where my business it started as just this all-in-one service where I do, all your marketing, or I can, whatever you want. I offer it all, but now it's moved into, like, guides of, like, let's say, like, how to set up a campaign, like that kind
Yeah.
of learning skills, vocab. I do services where it's like I can set up your business plans and, like, all that stuff, just in case people aren't ready to do
Yeah.
that. But
You're more
also,
like
for, like, me,
teaching the
where I
man to
was,
fish as opposed to
yes,
fishing for the man.
yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was doing. Because Mark Cuban once said that he has a bunch of, like, for dummies textbooks around his house. So I was like, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
And then, so I, like, once I started really putting all this to test, I was like, it is just, hopefully everybody wants to just learn.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the clients I'm building, which is awesome, because I can get them excited about math, which is great. So
Yeah. I mean, entrepreneurialism, I think, like, is an application of your skills just in a way that you didn't anticipate. Like, for me, I stepping into a co-founder role was really weird because I went to thinking like, oh, I'm kind of good at marketing and I'm like kind of good at content and I'm kind of good at like time management. So like sure, I'll try and see what happens. But what I discovered was that I realize you have those moments where you're sitting in a meeting and you're like, who's speaking these words? Like, how are they coming out of my mouth? Like, I didn't even know that I knew this. But you'll have moments where you're just listening and then like something comes up and you have something really useful to say. And like everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's a great insight. And then you're like, who the fuck said that? Because I don't
yeah.
know. And it's through those kinds of moments when you start to discover like, you have the knowledge in your brain, but it's not always going to be used in the way that you think initially, and you're never going to know until you put yourself in those positions. And like it comes back to being open to opportunities and situations that you didn't think you were going to be in, because like that's I think where the magic happens.
Yes, I agree. It really is just all a learning curve,
Yeah.
It's just, I think, and I hope a lot of other entrepreneurs can agree, that what you thought in the beginning was just not how it's going to turn out. And I also think that's awesome. I think that's also the people that make it bigger,
Yeah.
is when they're open to the change. But yeah, there's just, like, so much to it, like, it's just,
Unexpected.
it was like, I mean, when I was doing my taxes, like, I was like, what do I do with, like, small business owner taxes? Like,
Of
stupid
course.
things where, like, other people wouldn't think of, where it's like, oh my God, like, I have no idea what this means.
I don't even know what I'm doing on my personal taxes. Like, how
Right?
am I supposed to know what to do for my small business?
Oh my God, like there's like an employee identification number I need. I'm like, what is going on? Like,
You're like me. I'm the employee. It is I.
yeah, like what I need an ID number. It's like what take my license number? I don't know. Like
Yeah.
there's just so much that it's I don't know. I think because people just think it's like, all right, I'm signing up to be an influencer and it's done. And it's like, no, there is so much back end stuff. And once you, I think, can get over that hump, like that's why, like literally, I was reading. I'm still reading, obviously, the textbook, but the for dummies, like starting your own business, and it's like because it's
It's
just like
probably so
stupid
helpful.
things that you just yeah. I would have never thought of this stuff, but I was like, I just think of marketing and like and
Of course.
getting more clients and helping them and
Which is honestly what you should be thinking about because like that is the value that you bring to your company. It's not your knowledge of taxes. Like it's
yeah,
fine to rely on those kinds of resources because like it shouldn't be where you're devoting 100% of your energy. Yes, you have to do the dumb admin stuff, but what really is going to drive your business forward is only the things that you can do, which is the marketing and talking to people and getting clients. Like that's where you excel. And so I think like it's part of the entrepreneurial process, but it's also one of those things where like if you can outsource, do it. If you can delegate, do it because you shouldn't be worrying about that kind of shit. Like if that's not where your value lies.
yeah, that yeah. Like I think because I'm also so like OCD in this way
Mm.
where I'm just like I need to know everything, where I
Mm.
kind of get stuck on it. So I mean, I love this journey, but it's been I can't stop sometimes and about like
Yeah.
not the most important things. And it's like, how do I time manage to this when I need to learn this and this? And it's like, I think a lot of people stop. And I think I also stopped a bunch of hobbies probably because I got overwhelmed, if we're going to put it into one word. Um, so I think it, it just changes per person. And if you can just kind of put to the side the overwhelming part of it all and just put your talents out there, I think it'll work. But yeah, it's just a whole mental game. And I think people fear it. And I do still.
Yeah.
You want it to
Well,
work. But
it's high risk, high reward, right? Like you know what you're getting into in terms of actual energy output and time output. Like it is your life. Like I follow this one girl. Her name is Natalie Barbu. She's a content creator turned tech founder. She does YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, but her life is crazy. Like she literally has a tech platform, but she's also a full-time creator. And so she has so much to do on a regular basis that when you look at her schedule and like you watch her vlogs, you're like, how the fuck do you do this every day? Because it looks so exhausting. And she's super honest about it. I mean, she's posting on Instagram. She's like on vacation in Sweden and she's like, it's 5 a.m. here. I'm jet lagged and my computer's out. Everyone else in the house is asleep. I'm on a girls' trip, but like, this is the life. And so it's super high in terms of like risk in that like this is your whole life, this is your livelihood, this is your pride on the line, and it's also a shit ton of effort, it's a shit ton of work, and it's always like it's not always fun and glamorous, but on the other side like what you get as a result, which is financial freedom, time freedom, you're setting your own hours technically, and then once your business picks up it's also financial freedom. It's freaking sweet, but like to get there is hard work, and it's I think truly like entrepreneur is a personality trait. It's not just like a business. Like it's it's gonna sound silly, but like it's a lifestyle.
it is. It is. It's so true because I think one, a lot of people start it because they don't see that reality of it.
Yeah.
Props to this, I forget her name. What was her name? The vlogger?
Natalie.
Natalie, like showing 5 a.m. because that's true. But a lot of
Yeah.
people want to show like they're just travel influencers and showing what we want to be, but they're not showing the beginning of it and what they did to get there. But then there's also the financial freedom part where it's, I know my parents still, they're like, are you good? Like, are you like, saving it? Or like, what's going on? Are you putting it back into more paid ads? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And it's, I think people kind of forget that it's a slow pace, and it's like
Yes.
it changes every day. It's like, are you financially okay? Or you don't like leave your like room office
No.
because and people are
Yeah.
like, that's toxic, that's toxic. And I'm like, I know it is, but I have to do it. Like, I need, like, one day I'll get out and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But right now I can't. And I think it's just the personalities that people don't get, that I'm totally okay with it taking longer than usual than to go back to a 9 to 5. One, maybe because I'm
Yeah.
stubborn, but and then also I'm okay with like sitting and working until I'm a night worker. I can stay up all night and work, but
Yeah.
in the mornings, nope.
Yep.
So
My best friend put it into perspective today. I was on the phone with him because he's actually my business partner. And he was like, the difference between like us and other regular people is that like for them, here's the line up here, and then like hard work gets you here. But then like what takes us above that is like we're obsessed.
yes,
Like it is what it is. Maybe at some points it's slightly unhealthy because you have to work your ass off to get to where you want to go. But for us, it doesn't, like, it's hard work, yes, but it's not, it's relatively effortless in terms of like it's not the same as when you're working in an unfulfilling role in corporate America where you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I hate this. It's more of like, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't really sleep. I don't also have a social life, but I'm so fulfilled because
yeah,
I'm building something that's awesome and that I'm super proud of. And I'm going to be okay. Like, I'll get to the point eventually where you can establish like some more life work balance, but it's a slow build. And God, social media does not give enough credit to how slow of a build it is. Like, it's
yeah,
so frustrating because all you see are these reels of people who are like, I used to work 9 to 5, I quit my job, built my dream business, and look where I'm at now. And it's like, you cannot describe what that experience is like in a 5-second reel. Like, that's just
no,
highlights of your journey because it's not realistic. And I think it encourages people to do entrepreneurial ventures when they don't have the personality for it and they don't actually want it. They want that instant gratification that they got through
yep,
watching the reel.
yeah, 100%. I think and it's it's like a number game where if someone has more followers, they trust that person more. But it's
Mhm.
that, and I always bring it back to like marketing with certain phrases, because those people on TikTok, like I always see the ones right now of like drop shipping, like make like
Oh God.
30,000 in the first month. And it's like, what? No, everybody would be doing it. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, and so, but they make it like they use certain phrases that pull
Yeah.
people in
Oh
to
my God, I hate
buy
it.
like their guide. And you know what? That's the game. Like, if that's the phrase that pulls more people in, like, sorry, like, that you
Yeah.
fell for it. But
That's
um
the frustrating part is you're like, that is what succeeds on social media. And it's so aggravating because I have this like rebellious nature to be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to mislead people to hook them in to
yep,
watch my stupid reel for 5 seconds. Like, I would so much rather you find it organically and be like, oh, I relate to this. I don't want to be that person that's like screaming on Instagram, being like, make. I mean, I literally was watching TV last night and I had to watch an ad on Amazon Prime where it was like a Garnier Fructis commercial. And they were saying that one use of their shampoo will reverse 7 years of damage. And I
what?
live by myself. So I looked at my cat and I was like, literally, how? How can you just claim that one use of your shampoo will reverse 7 years of damage? I was like, you don't have, for sure, they don't have like the research to prove that. That's
No.
impossible. But it's to your point, like, it's the hook. It's what will
Yeah.
grab people. It's what gets views. And I mean, I paid attention because I was like, that has to be bullshit, but it works. And it's so, it's so annoying.
That's where, so that obviously like all the talk of social media now, it's like, it's so fake, but like then what's real? Because then people are saying like yours is real, but yours is fake, and the back and
Mhm.
forth and all that stuff. But it's same thing with commercials. And I'm always, and obviously like I'll never know, but I'm so interested in seeing the numbers, especially
Yes.
as like a media buyer. So it's like, how much did you pay for that ad?
Yeah.
and how many people actually bought it from that ad, like the
Yeah.
tracking like data in me, like I'm like, where does it lie and stick with this company? And obviously, granted, like the more you make in a company, the more you can spend and say random key phrases like that because you already have the trust. And
Yeah.
it's so scary because it's, again, values. And I don't want, and I always say to my clients too, I'm like, listen, I know what I'm doing, but the first couple of months are going to be tricky because we
Mm-hmm.
need to find the data first. Like,
Yeah.
and so it's that trust again and values of like, I don't want to lie to you, but I also like, it is more money than you think, but I'm not like scamming you. Like
Yeah.
a lot of like what their surroundings are is a scam, sadly. Like that's just the game of marketing, and that's how a lot of people make it. So
Well, yeah, it goes back to courses. Like, what is with the trend of people just selling a bunch of courses? Like, does that work? I
I
don't,
I really wonder myself. Like
because,
the marketing textbooks you can buy, and they'll like do the 60-day marketing course or whatever, like, or the Amazon influencers that was crazy for a while. And I'm like, how many of these can we have? Like, is it gonna get saturated? Like, I always think of that too, because
well, it's like
I
a
don't know.
trend.
Yeah, it's just a trend, and it's so fast paced that what's it called now? What's it, fast something? Oh my God. Like the
What?
fast trends or whatever. Wow. I
Oh, I
forget
don't
what
know. Maybe I'm not in the loop. I have no idea.
it's something like whatever, like the Gen Z like can't it's like fast trends, basically.
Oh,
Like they
okay.
like are interested for a
Not
month
my
and then they're
info.
like gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's again like it was TV commercial, or like let's
Mm.
say a 2 hour movie, then a 1 hour show, then a half hour, then like a 30-second TikTok. Like YouTube even is too long for some people now. Like things like that where it's there's so many different things that are changing, and I
Yeah.
think people don't realize that, and then they like see one thing and are like make this $30,000 by becoming an Amazon influencer, but it's like how are you going to get people to go to your Amazon? Like people like get so
Yeah.
excited, and I get nervous for people because I've obviously fallen for TikTok
Well, it
ads.
sounds freaking awesome. It
It
sounds
does.
great. It sounds like everything you've ever wanted, but it's instant gratification. Like,
Yeah.
there is no such thing as a quick fix. There's no diet that's going to have you like lose weight immediately. There's no business plan that's going to get you $30,000 in 2 days. Like, none of that is real.
No.
It's just a hook.
Yeah.
And I don't know, who knows? Maybe like this will all eventually lead us. Maybe we've like bent the tree back too far and maybe we'll end up going back in a different way. And I also just think that the real people out there will find real people with real help and like their ideas will get pushed through because it's real. Like I have to trust in that process because otherwise I feel for people. I do. Like I don't
Yeah.
want I can imagine that a lot of people out there think that like drop shipping is their answer to solve all of their problems. And then they start it and then they have like mountains of shit in their house because they thought that drop shipping would solve all their problems. When it's like, no, you have to think the whole thing through. Because I had a moment during my freelance game when I was like, should I do drop shipping?
Yep.
And I
Me too.
read one article that was like, here's everything that goes into it. And then you read it and you're like, oh shit, like you have to convince people to go to your Amazon, which then probably just takes you back to the loop of like, maybe I have to be an influencer.
Yeah.
I have to have 1 million followers on TikTok to get people to go to my Instagram, to then go to my Amazon, to then buy the things that are drop shipped to my home. It's just like, there's no get rich quick scheme. There's not.
No,
Sorry.
there's not. And I think it just all goes back to like respecting yourself in the process with anything,
Yeah.
like a diet or
Mm-hmm.
a small business or a big business, like your dream, anything. Like you're going to be pushed in so many different directions, and listen,
Mm.
me too. Like there's scammers. There's like you think that it's just because other people can do it, and I think we are back to valuing fame
Yeah.
and money when I think we were doing a little bit good for a little bit, and then it kind of got crazy with the influencers, where the instant gratification just like they're like if they can do it, I can do it, and like to your
Right.
point, yeah, you can. but they also did things to get there as well. And it's not, I mean, obviously there's people that just are lucky, but I think that it's just also tricky, and people need to just take a second and do it for you and not for others. Because
Well,
I
it's
know in
not.
the beginning I was like, I'm gonna prove you all wrong, but now it's like,
Yeah,
no, I need to prove myself wrong and do it.
totally. And like Instagram in general, my issue with social media is that it causes you to think externally, right? You like look at all this stuff, and then because we're human beings, we immediately start comparing ourselves to that, and you think like, oh, well, their grass is greener and I want that instead. And then it derails you from what your true path should be. Like everyone's path is different. Everyone has a different experience in their lifetime. And when you accept that and when you trust the process and you start to like listen to yourself more, trust your intuition, trust your gut, whatever you want to call it, be open to the journey and the different paths that pop up along that, like you'll get where you need to go. It's no problem. But with social media, you're constantly looking at other people's lives. And I like caution people to stay, if you have a problem with social media, like you're not going to be able to get to your path because you're always looking at other people and you're always like thinking that their way is the best way. Like you're like, oh, I should be an influencer. Wait, I should do drop shipping. Like, wait, I should do like travel influencing. Wait, I should do this, instead of like coming back to yourself, like you said, and being like, what do I want?
Yeah.
What can I bring? Like, what value do I bring to this planet? Like, how can I help other people?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, when the magic starts.
It really does. That and nerves. I mean, I started this in October, and this is my first podcast that I've done. Like,
Really?
Yeah. I
Oh,
was just so nervous to actually, and it's also crazy because I do social media for people, but I
yeah.
am nervous to post for myself. Like,
Yeah.
I did it in every other way possible except actually doing it for myself. And
Yeah.
it's such a different game. So I was like, oh my God, like, what if people like from my high school see it, or my
Yeah.
college, or like stupid stuff where it's like no one cares, but I cared, and it held me back, and I like didn't push through. So it's like, if you can just respect your journey, and even though I need to always be on social media and like just block it out, like, because I'm
Yeah.
not them and I never will be, but and just saying, like, I mean, I've said it for like a New Year's resolution for years. I always just say fuck it, and I
Yeah.
like made it a point, and I was like, I gotta do it, like fuck it, like just do it, and if it fails,
Yeah.
like, and now I've kind of like gotten maybe obsessively loving fear and fail.
Yes.
Like, I like
Yes.
want to fail because it's like,
Failure's just data.
yeah,
That's all it
it's so
is. You're like, okay, I tried something, it didn't work out, whatever. Great, now I know. I can try something else.
yeah. And I think like everybody that surrounds, like all the positive people that surround me, like get nervous for me to fail, but it's like I want to, like,
Yeah.
because then it'll like take it out, like just take out all the weeds and let me go, like.
Yeah. No,
But
that's the way to do it. If you're like not, oh God, I think like fear is such an issue, and it permeates every part of your life. It like seeps into your relationships, it seeps into your like self-motivation, your self-belief, like it just taints everything. And the second that you can have a relationship with fear where you look at it and you're like, either you're telling me to be like genuinely scared of something, or like I'm just a little bit nervous about it, and you can look at it and see it for what it is, which is just data, especially in business. Like it's just testing. You're just testing a theory. And if the theory doesn't pan out, then it actually is more helpful because then you can take that data and utilize it for the next round. So then you're constantly improving. And if you have a good relationship with fear where you're like, we're just chatting,
yeah,
and it's not like taking over everything that you do, like there are no limits. Like you got this.
exactly. And that's still back to the, being obsessed with everybody, like on influencers, like making it to the top, like they're still failing, but they're not telling you. Like I
Right.
probably would tell other people too, but I know, and they know, and they're over and they're loving fear. So like that's, I think a lot of people that's starting out kind of forget that you're don't like be scared to fail because you're going to, like, there's like,
Yeah.
sorry.
I feel like influencers are fully living in like the fuck it mentality, because you think about how extra it is to have to be them. Like to
Oh my
go
God.
out and have to like take their pictures and like always be on their phone and like talking in public on Instagram stories. Like they fully live in the fuck it mentality where they do not give a shit
Yeah.
how they are perceived by others. And I kind of have to respect that because it was something that I was also struggling with when I started this. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to start posting and everyone's going to be like, oh, like what, she's an entrepreneur now? Like who does she think she is, you know? And then I
It's
had
gonna
to also,
fail. Like
yeah,
it's not gonna work.
yeah, it's just another one of Maddie's phases.
Yeah.
Like nobody cares. And then I had somebody message me the other day and be like, "Oh, I noticed you don't like follow a lot of people from high school." And I was like, "Why? What? What an asinine comment to make because none of these people care about what I'm doing." I'm like, if you don't have my phone number and you're not like reaching out to me via text to be like, "Hey, how are you?" I don't need to be following you on Instagram or like
No.
involved in your life. Like we don't have a relationship. I don't understand that when people are like, "Oh, why don't you follow me on Instagram?" Like I don't, because I don't have a relationship with you. Like we're not friends.
No. I think that's my issue with Facebook. I am
Oh,
constantly on Facebook looking at like all the moms from my high school still posting and like seeing things. Like I'm at my like hometown group chat on Facebook. It's like stupid things, but I'm wrapped into it. And it's like
yeah.
I need to like take it off because it held me back for like this
Yeah.
long. So
Yeah.
it's such a crazy thing, and I wish I could. I always say it when I see these influencers too. I'm like, I wish I could just say fuck it and like talk to myself on a camera. I would
Yeah.
laugh.
They have another level that I am not on because like that is a level of self-confidence that even I do not possess. And also I just know because like that's not my path. Like I
Yeah,
had to come to that realization on my own through trying to do that. I had to be like, this is toxic for me. Like it's not what
yeah.
I meant to do, and I had to like let it go. But it sounds like fun.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah, looks like
I
they have a
wonder if
good
it
time.
really is. Like I always wonder. I'm
Who
like, are you
knows?
really happy? I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? No one
That's what's so
knows.
scary about it. It's like you'll never know. But I think people need to like again follow unfollowing people that you like don't talk to. It's like you gotta stop caring because they're doing nothing for your mental health. And yeah, I
You
should
got
probably
bigger
do
shit to
that.
worry about. You
Yeah,
have a business.
it's
You
a
got
really good
people that
idea.
need you.
I love that.
This has
I
been,
literally like I was like thinking of moving to this one city, but like everybody moves there, and I'm like,
yeah.
no,
Yeah, like why do I need to do that? I don't need to do that.
I'm scared. I don't want to see people. Like I know, like no, I want to go like just be my age somewhere else, no one know me, and start over kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
totally.
yeah,
This has
this,
been such a fun conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
me
This was so
too.
nice.
That was awesome.
Thank you so much. This was so
Thank
fun.
you.